All right. Bleav in Bama episode 2. We are coming off a crazy week of Alabama football. But before we even get into that, let's welcome and introduce our other co-host for Bleav in Bama, DJ Fluker. If you guys are Crimson Tide fans, you are more than likely very familiar with his name. DJ, hey, how are you? So excited to have you doing this with me.
Thank you for having me upon the show. Thank you for the invite. Honestly, reaching out and everything. It's gonna be a great podcast. I hope. So, any questions? We can go far away and let's get it rocking.
Yeah, let's get it rocking. Just for anyone, who maybe is a newer Alabama fan in these past few years or needs a bit of a refresher, you played for Alabama not too long ago, just a few years ago, playing under Nick Saban. Come on. I think if you're playing for Nick Saban, it wasn't that long ago, right?
It wasn't that long. It wasn't that long ago. I guess 2009 to 2013. I got 3 national titles, 3 national championships, first team All-American, first team academic All-American. So I got 3 national titles. So, I mean, before I left there, I left with some real good jury. Let's put it like that.
You left with some good stuff. Let's just say that. I mean, 3 national championship rings, you could probably stop with that, and people are pretty impressed. But then to have the other accolades that you had as well, especially the academic stuff, I love when I see, football players or any student athletes really excelling and getting acknowledged for their work in the classroom, because I played sports growing up and I could barely deal with my homework, I feel like, half the time. So to even imagine having the schedule of an Alabama football player, basketball player, whatever, and excelling in the classroom, I mean, more power to you, because I could barely do it as a regular college student.
It's hard, man. I mean, I think Alabama did a great job at the time when I was there. I don't know if some of the guys are still there though, but we had a guy named Lance Walker. Lance Walker used to be our head guy. Used to go and check out our classroom, make sure we there. And we had a study hall around like 7:30 to like 10:30, sometime 11 o'clock at nighttime. Sometime, but I mean, they did a great job of making sure we got our schoolwork done. They wanted to make sure that schoolwork came first. They didn't care how long you was in there. They made sure you got the schoolwork done. I'll tell you that from experience. But overall, man, I think Alabama has a great academic program, especially keeping you on task. Everything since I've been there is always been upon structure. I always had it structured out, from classes structured out to the way you go eat is structured out to the way you go study is all structured out. Everyone has a time, And if you miss if you miss one of those study halls, you definitely were getting a point on the board. You never want to get points on the board because they'll make you run about 40-40s. Now, I made sure I wasn't on that board.
You're like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing none of that.
Not at all. You won't see me running out there now. That's why I made sure I stayed on top of my schoolwork. Even if I had to stay extra, I was there. I said, plus I hadn't graduated from Alabama 2 or 3 years, 3 years and a half. So I should put more time into the schoolwork too. So I made sure I left there with more than just football.
I love that for sure. But of course, you had a lot of success on the football field as well, and you're very familiar with the football program at the University of Alabama, playing under head coach Nick Saban. I gotta jump right into it here. We were talking briefly before about the Tennessee game. With Coach Saban specifically, at halftime of that game, what's that locker room conversation like? What is he saying to these kids when they're down at half in Knoxville?
Oh God, man! The thing is probably he's probably saying some of the most craziest things probably. Like basically like tackle better. I mean that's kind of what I seen the first half like of the game, tackling better. They had a couple of PIs during that game. So I say, I mean, they were kind of iffy calls a little bit. I feel like the referee was kind of throwing a little tendency, a little bone here and there. But I mean, it's all about the guys all playing together, playing for each other, and that's kind of the main thing. He will probably be. If I know coach, that's kind of what he will be ripping that butt on about playing more physical. being on your assignments. Don't blow your assignments. You know, things like that. Play with better technique. And getting them fired up to go. Because I mean, yeah, this is a big guy for you. You know, and you can't lose. Usually, we supposed to be smoking cigars like after the game. You
Mhm.
know, gotta mean something to you. You know, I think the best thing I know the other thing he probably said, how bad do you want to win? How bad do you want it? What does it mean to you to go out here and go ahead and win? You know, I think that's always he preaches that to all his players. And I know I remember the coach saying speech. You just never forget it. He always said this: "There's no I in team, but there's an I in win." That's for each individual to do their job to the best of their ability. And I think he always leave that message because it's about you doing your job, you being the best at what you best, being the best at what you're at, and your other teammates will just like follow along. So I know that was probably the speech he gave them during that halftime.
Maybe a little more with an angry tone in his voice than what you're giving me right
Of
now.
course.
Maybe just a little bit.
Oh yeah, you know that song me a little bit 10 times that now. Definitely that.
I was gonna say, so when we were setting up where we were having our post-game press conference with the team, it was in this room right next to their locker room. And so during halftime, we were setting up our tripods and that kind of stuff. And I couldn't hear anything just then, but one of our other friends who was in there a little bit later than us, he was like, "Oh, it is loud in that locker room." I was just like, "Well, yeah, what do you expect?" Like, and even though they went into the half not down by nearly as much as they could have, you know, this is Alabama football, and this is the Tennessee Alabama football rivalry. You don't want to be down in that game, especially like you were saying, and I'm with you 100% on the ref calls. I think a lot of the calls on Alabama were justified, and I'm not blaming the result of this game on the refs. A lot of things happened in that game that could have helped Alabama win that they shouldn't have done. You know, they were making a lot of mental errors and that kind of stuff. The punt return that turned into a turnover, I don't know what was going on there. And I think because I always want to be able to go back and watch the games on the broadcast because obviously I'm down on the sidelines, I'm not seeing it. But I think that's the clip that Saban like went viral this weekend. He was like losing his mind. And I'm like, well, of course he is. Like, what happened there? Like, there were a lot of calls that were definitely justified on Alabama. So I'm sure that was part of that tension at halftime. Like, what are you guys doing kind of a thing. However, there were several calls either that were missed and or made on Alabama that I personally did not agree with, and a lot of people did not. I think Kool-Aid's return with the whole pass, I know he wasn't the one that, you know, did the pass interference, but the whole pass interference call at the end, I think that one is one that people are going to be a little butthurt about for a while.
I think you're talking about the one in the end zone.
The one in the end, yeah. I can't even remember now that I'm thinking about it who actually deflected the ball, but Kool-Aid's the one that caught it and brought it out. And he comes all the way, and we're like, of course, there's a flag because that's how this game was going.
I agree with you. That should not have been a flag. They both jumped up at the same time.
Well, and so what's wild about that one, and I mean, I'm not a ref, and I've never played college football, so like, I take my opinion with a grain of salt. But what's crazy is when you go look at the replay of that play, the ref that was closest to the play actually happening, he was calling for an incomplete pass, like as it was happening. And then I can't remember where exactly the other ref was, but I'm pretty sure Kool-Aid had it maybe out to like the 15 or something before the PI flag was finally thrown. And it's like, what? Like, if the guy who was right in front of it didn't call that as soon as it happened, because pass interference is one that like you typically see it like as soon as it's happening, you're going to see that flag thrown. And for it to have happened like, you know, just a few seconds later even, but not even from the guy who was closest, and he kind of like took a second to think about it. It was like, no, it was some other ref, like after he had called incomplete pass. I'm upset about it still, clearly.
Right. I'm right there with you because I was looking at that play. I mean, I know I seen that deflection. It was really good defense actually. And he called it, and I'm just like, there's no way to overturn it. That flag came out so late. He was halfway down the field when that flag came out. So it was like it was impossible for you to even make a call like that. And so it's like they just don't want them to win. I mean, to me, they still win to me because it's like that's my team. You know, I always be my team, and they win to me. But like they cheated them pretty bad. And I've seen referees do it all the time. That's why we got to play super clean as possible so you can
Oh,
get out
yeah.
of there.
And everyone's like, oh, well, the calls always go in Alabama's favor, so it's okay. And I'm like, why can't they just call the calls how they're supposed to go? Why do they have to go in somebody's favor or like not? And that kind of, I'm like, just rest do your job. And like, and I know that being a ref is a tough job. I do. And I don't mean a whole lot of disrespect when I say this, but I am throwing a little bit of shade. Like, we're talking about the same ref crew that lost track of downs in this game.
This is very true. Very true. Very true.
Minimal shade. If any of them were to ever see this, I love you. I do. And I wish you well, but I hope that you guys do not ref football games anymore.
At least not together.
Not together. Yeah, it's a problematic group. Let's just say that. Yeah, we're sitting at that point. I wasn't even out on the field. I was in the media room editing some stuff, and me and one of the Tennessee students that was in there working, we're looking up at the screen and we're like, why are they reviewing this so much? Because we're thinking it's third down. So we're like, okay, well, they clearly stopped them, but it's also third down. So why are we like, if it was fourth down, I get it, but they clearly stopped them. So there's really nothing to review. We're like, what is going on? And then we're like, oh, they lost track of downs. Like, whatever. I guess it was four. And I'm like, what? What do you mean?
Unheard of.
I was losing my mind, but we'll just put the rest in the rear view. We'll just try to forget about it. Again, I know that. Because I know that in football, I know there are so many things that it comes down to, so many factors that it comes down to. But, let's say maybe that punt return wasn't fumbled and recovered by Tennessee, and that's an error on Alabama. That could have changed the trajectory of the game. Some of the other early penalties, that could have all changed it. And I know that, I know Saban and I know the players on that team, especially the leaders on that team, know that they needed to do more in order to come out with a win. However, the refs did not necessarily help that, and I will just leave it at that.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. I agree with you. I think Tennessee gave them a little change like under the table now. I'm gonna go and find. I said I think they gave them a little handshake.
Oh, something.
something of that matter.
Oh my goodness. That whole game, I'm still recovering from it. The scene in Knoxville afterwards, absolute chaos. And we don't need to dive too much into this, but I just need to, I've been talking about it at work all week. People have been asking me about it. When y'all rush the field, when y'all do that, I need everyone to take everyone's safety into account. And I'm telling you right now, that was not happening.
They did not care. I can only imagine the parents who went to Tennessee and they didn't want a game in 15 years either. They probably was on the field too.
Oh, everyone was. Yeah, everyone was down there, and it's just like, I know it's chaotic, and I know it's a lot of fun for them, but I'm like, please just remember everyone that is down on that field that did not necessarily ask for that to happen, aka everyone that's trying to do their jobs down on the field. Right. I'm like, I'm getting punched left and right. I got cigars all over me. Like, the goalpost came like this close to coming down on my face. And like, then some guy afterwards was like, oh, it's your fault for being on the field. I go, no. I was like, I'm the one who's supposed to be on the field in this situation. Right. Like, the Tennessee fans or the Tennessee players, they're fine. The Alabama players, they're good. Their staffs, they're good. But if you have a ticket that is up in the stands, I was like, do not tell me that is all my fault for being where I'm supposed to be to do my job. It was a disaster, and I hope I do not have to do it again anytime soon. I will say that.
I hope not, because I watched it. I watched it on TV. It looked pretty hectic.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's crazy. Like, we know there's a lot of people down there when we're down there, but you don't really realize it until you see those pictures and videos from the broadcast, and you're like,
Right.
whoa. You're like, there are a
Yeah.
lot of people on that football field right now.
Definitely. I seen it. I'm glad I never. Well, the last time I was a part of something like that was when we won the SEC championship. We were at Georgia. That's the last time I see somebody storm the field.
Oh gosh, I was at the 2019 Iron Bowl. When they stormed the field. Yeah. And that one, the Tennessee experience was definitely worse than the Auburn one. But I will say, it doesn't matter what the temperature is outside. When people storm the field, you are sweating your butt off. I swear it could be 30 degrees. And I mean, I was disheveled after this experience. And the most embarrassing part, I don't even care about any of it, but I stumble into that media room for Coach Saban's press conference afterwards in Tennessee. And I had lost a shoe in the experience. One of my shoes came off, but I got it back. However, I'm holding it. And I walk into that room, shoe in hand, drenched in sweat, disheveled. And who's sitting there? Miss Terry Saban, just in her shining glory. And I was like, no, no. I was like, I feel like I need to apologize to her for my appearance at this moment. I was like, not Miss Terry. I was like, not Miss Terry seeing me disheveled with one shoe in my hand. Like, oh no.
That's hilarious.
I was like,
seriously.
Please no. And then I was talking to someone, and I don't know who it was that was sitting next to Miss Saban, but she said something. She was like, yeah, I saw her. She walked in with one shoe. And I was like, don't bring it up. I was like,
wow, she called you out?
I was like, don't bring it up next to her. Not again. I was like,
wow,
goodness gracious. I was like, not Miss Saban. That's not what I needed today. But you know what?
Not
fine. Maybe she'll remember me. Maybe she'll remember me. It's the poor girl who lost her shoe in Knoxville. Gosh, I went to do laundry on Sunday or whatever day, and I was like, why is this sock green? I was like, that doesn't make any sense. I was like, oh, because I was barefoot for a while down on the field, and I guess got all the green on it. I was like, hopefully that came out.
Hopefully.
Absolute madness in Knoxville. Looking at that game though, what did you see? For me, I mean, it was Bryce Young. And Jahmyr Gibbs, what did you see that you were impressed with? I know there were a lot of things we can kind of look at as the negatives. But I think Bryce, I mean, he looked like he didn't even skip a beat after coming back from a shoulder injury. Jahmyr, I think, played well. And I was just very impressed with Bryce's ability to just come back out there seamlessly. But I think anyone who knows anything about him, that's kind of who he is. He has that poise and that composure and that kind of stuff. What did you see from Bama that you were pleased with?
I think they did a pretty solid job on offense. I mean, I'm an offense guy anyway, but I think they did a solid job. I think they could have finished better on offense on the O-line better. I think Bryce made good decisions like when they mattered. He did a good job getting in and out of the pocket though when things kind of were getting a little bit crushed. He did a good job with that. But I think Bama needs to get back to running the ball. That's what they're good at. That's what we know how to do. This West Coast passing the ball, man, it's great. But like Alabama has always been run first, pound the ball first, then we pass second. We impose our will first. I think they need to get back to doing what they do best. I mean, running the ball is what made us win championships. I mean, that's where it all started for me. I mean, Bryce is always gonna be good. I mean, he's a playmaker for him. I mean, I've seen that kid do some things. Yeah, get up a pocket, scramble, run for a touchdown. I said, wow, that's kid.
Some Houdini-like stuff. I don't even know how he does it.
I don't know how he does it because I was looking at one guy, man. That guy already caught him. That kid will pop out of the pocket, run around. I was just like, wow. I said he's like electrifying just to watch him by himself. You know, I mean, they have great receivers, great speed receivers. I mean, they have a good running back, but I think they just need a really good, solid run game, just like the Alabama always have. You know, make them guys up front like fear them. You know, like the old days.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I know now the generation has changed since then. Players have changed since then, but I mean, they played a really solid game. I mean, I seen Tennessee bring a few linebacker blitzes up the A gap, and you know, I think they needed. I seen the running backs now. They gave up a little bit of pressure for him to get the ball off a little bit. I think under pressure, I'll take Bryce Young all day under pressure. He'll make some plays happen out of no plays. I mean, give credit to them. On top of that, I mean, the scheme always gonna get better. I mean, I'm pretty sure this week they're gonna get better too and learn from the mistakes. But what I say is offensively, just finish harder, finish your blocks more. I think that's kind of the main thing I've seen when I watch the game. Just being able to be finish the block so he can have more time to pass the ball. You know, I think that's the only thing I have really seen. I mean, no discredit them. Now I know they work hard because playing Bama, you gotta work hard.
Mm-hmm.
But I think just have more passion for the game, more passion for what they're doing. I mean, you playing Alabama. I mean, you want the top schools in the country.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you want people to understand like, hey, our offense is unstoppable. You can't stop it. You know, I think that's the mindset they need to have, man. And defensively, I mean, do what they do best. I mean, make those hard hits, get those interceptions. I say get better at technique. I mean, that's the only thing I can remember. Coach always says us technique is everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I mean, other than that, from watching that game, I think they did a solid job. I think they just had a few calls not go that way, and sometimes that's the way the tide rolls. Sometimes.
Yeah. The defense, I think I'm with you for sure on the offense finishing a little bit harder. And that's kind of what I was thinking about the defense on Saturday specifically. But then even kind of looking back at some of my footage from the Texas A&M game, I feel like there were a few times where the guys, they thought that they had the quarterback or whoever wrapped up, they thought they had him done and they kind of gave up on the play a little bit. They kind of gave up on that tackle.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, you see either them go on to score or a big play that leads to a score or something like that. I think the defense, they've struggled a little bit recently, maybe just having that discipline that they need. But I know those guys, I know they're not pleased with it. I know, you know, Will Anderson, he's lighting a fire under those guys being like, what are we doing here, people? Because he strikes me as very similar to Bryce in a lot of ways, but just similar to a lot of those leaders where, I mean, he means business. Like, and if y'all are messing around and y'all aren't doing what you need to be doing, he's not going to be happy with you because, you know, even right now with Alabama ranked 6th in the country, which sounds a little bit weird to even say, you know, these guys, they're not letting that keep them down really. They still know that they control their own destiny to Atlanta. They still know they can make it to the SEC championship. They know they can win a national championship because you look at Saban's teams that have won a national championship, hardly any of them had an undefeated season. So I think people are quick to be like, oh, no, it's over. It's not. But it all comes back to you've got to do your job. You've got to do what you need to do. And I think specifically what I've seen on defense recently, it just seems a little, what's the word I'm looking for? Just not as disciplined as what we're used to seeing that Alabama team be on both offense and defense. They're all disciplined all the time. But that's, I think, where we're seeing a little bit of the lack on the defense is just that discipline and the finishing and that kind of stuff.
Right, and no, I agree with that. I think it's all about how they finish and how they do their assignments. So I say you can have blown assignments sometimes, but it's just about them finishing. Once they get back to Bama football and having fun again, they gotta have fun. I mean, I seen a couple guys make plays that's like they're like, oh yeah, we made a play. Oh, let's go back to the huddle. You know, like guys, be excited about playing football right now. You made a play for your team. This should be excited. Be excited like like on the sideline. Cheer for your teammate. He just made a big play for you to go out here and make a stop. Now, I mean, you know, things like that. I mean, I think they just need to find that leadership back on their defense again. And offense, I already know Bryce Young got that kid. That kid's phenomenal. They're gonna figure it out. I mean, that's how Bama does. I mean, we'll start from the bottom. People count us out, then we come back and surprise everybody. You know, I think that's probably the best part about being at Alabama. They expect you to win, but you know what I'm saying. So like when you had a persona on you, everyone wants to knock you off. And that's how it's been since they won when I got there. You know, they built up that mentality about being the best. And once you had the mindset of not being a nine, I mean, you could be anything.
So getting back to Bryant-Denny Stadium this Saturday, a homecoming matchup, back to SEC West play. So like Saban, you know, he said on Saturday, and now it is true, there is no margin for error in the West, you know, y'all, especially with some of the competition we're seeing from Ole Miss this season and that kind of stuff. Mississippi State, their opponent for this Saturday, definitely not terrible, ranked in the top 25. Alabama is favored to win this one, but you know, Mike Leach, his offense that he's running is something else for sure. You're saying Alabama needs to run the ball, while Mississippi State's doing the exact opposite. They are launching that thing to the sky. We're looking at this matchup with Mississippi State getting back into West action. Just, I know it's kind of an obvious answer, but how important is a win for Alabama, do you think, this Saturday?
I think every win matters for those guys right now. I mean, they have to redeem themselves. I mean, they came up a little bit short. They got to redeem themselves. They got to go back into their playbooks and go back to their notebooks and just reprogram of what they want to do this week for their goals this week. What are we trying to do? We're trying to get us a goose egg on defense. I mean, it goes back to offense. Like, hey, how many points can we score against this team on defense? I think no, take more time after practice. Maybe throw to the receivers a little bit more. Make sure you guys are on the same page. I think it's time for them guys to like step up and realize, hey guys, we could be in the SEC championship or that championship, or we can be out of it. It's more up to us. So I think that's the mindset they're going to instill into them this week, and that's what I believe. So.
I think this matchup, I think it's one of those. I think they're favored by 24 points or something like that. And I know that kind of stuff. I know that kind of stuff never matters to Saban. It never matters to those guys on that team. And I think that especially in this situation, I mean, it just can't. You cannot let any of that get to you. And I think, you know, Saban always talks about valuing your opponent and, you know, seeing the competition in every opponent, whether, you know, they're playing Mercer, San Jose State, Utah State, or you're going up against Tennessee, UGA, Ole Miss, any of that. Don't undersize and don't underestimate anyone, because like you kind of alluded to this whole conversation, you know, and it's what people say all the time. You're playing for the University of Alabama. You know, you've got however many national championships, however many SEC championships, you are going to get every single team's best, because, and I know it was a big rivalry and a long time since they got a win, but, you know, just the scene in Knoxville on Saturday goes to show beating Alabama means a lot to a lot of people. You know, after there were kids in Knoxville afterwards acting like they had just won the national championship. Because, and again, I know it's been a long time since they beat Alabama, so I get it, but beating Alabama, it's the same for Auburn. It's the same for Ole Miss and Mississippi State, all these teams. You know, it's the same for Jimbo Fisher getting that win over Nick Saban last year. Beating Alabama means so much to all of these teams, not just in the SEC, but the whole country. So if you're going to get anyone's best game of the season, it's going to be when they play Alabama. And I don't think that's an exception for these Mississippi State Bulldogs, for sure.
Right, and that's why they can't take no players off. They got to play every play like it's the last play. That's the hardest thing about being on top. Everyone wants to beat you. Like, it's like you said, every game in is a national championship. We beat Alabama, you beat the best team in college football. That's really what it's all about. That's how it was when I played, and that's how it is when they play. You know, they just gotta look at it that way. I think they need to change their mindset. You know, I just like you said. I mean, they're playing competition every single week. Every week, a team is bringing their best game plan just for you. They should be happy about that. I mean, I would. You bring
Yeah.
your best game plan for me,
For me?
so you can stop me. Come on now.
For me?
Come on now. So I mean, if I can beat your game plan, I'll beat your best efforts to beat our team. You know, that's what it's all about. I mean, they should be excited about the competition. I mean, if they can't, you brought your best game plan for me, and I still beat it. Obviously, that's telling you we have the best players here.
I
You
can't
know, I
even
mean,
imagine like the mindset of like specifically the guys on the defense. I feel like I can't even imagine like Will Anderson and like Henry To'oTo'o, like what's going through their minds, like Jordan Battle being like, "That's how you got it? That's what you brought for me?" Like when they're like dominating like that. I mean, they're like, "You really brought your best game of the season, and that's what we brought." Okay. I can just imagine what's going on in their heads in those situations. But then, you know, they see the flip side of it against Tennessee. Y'all brought your best game plan, and it worked. Like, let's just say
it did.
that.
I mean, they had a little referee help. We gonna talk about that though.
We're moving past it.
They had a little help.
We're moving past it. We're going back to your days playing for Alabama. You move past the last game and go to the next one.
That's it.
Just keep moving. Just keep moving. The number 24 team in the country coming into Tuscaloosa, Alabama coming off a bit of a loss that stings a little bit. What do you think? I mean, how much of a fire are these guys going to have under them going up against Mississippi State? What are this Mississippi State team? What do they need to be, afraid of come Saturday at 6 p.m.?
I think they're gonna be afraid of a real angry Alabama team. I mean, a real angry team. Period. I mean, they have to redeem themselves now. So, man, at this point, they got to go out there and play hard, play physical, play with effort, toughness, and a whole lot of discipline. You know, I think they're looking for a team that's gonna be on fire coming on Saturday. So they just became a part of their wave right now. You know, I'm seeing Bryce Young putting on 50 points probably hopefully this weekend. Hopefully we get a goose egg on defense. You know, not say the credit not to the other team because the other team just as good. I mean, we've seen any team can be beat on any given Saturday at this point, but still they got something to look forward to. I mean, I think they're gonna see the best of Alabama. They're gonna see from here on out, and that's for any team like after that. But right now, it's this team, so they're in their way right now. So we're gonna see what happens.
I think that, I think Bryce is more than likely going to go out and do what he does best. I think, hopefully he does drop 50 or something like that. I think what's most important this week for this Alabama team to really get that bounce back and prove themselves, I think it's the defense. I think they need a big game. They've had big moments in these games, the Texas A&M, the goal line stop. They've had the big moments and that kind of stuff, but I think they, as a unit, I think they need this game to really, get recentered, get refocused, and maybe not even on the big plays specifically, and this goes for the whole team. I think they just need a game where they're doing everything right. Even if, you might give up some points, you might give up a play here and there, but I think they need one of those games where they gave it their all, they tried their best, and, they're not giving up on plays, and they're really just going out there disciplined and doing everything right. Because I think we've seen throughout the entire season, we've seen a lack of that, going all the way back to the Texas game. We saw, and I know that was a rowdy environment. I know it was loud, but we saw a lot of mental errors on the Alabama side of the ball. Going back to that game, I was seeing, and I mean, I'm sure he was just tearing himself up afterwards, but I was seeing Will Anderson do things in that game that I've never even heard of him doing. I'm like, what? I was sitting on the couch watching it with someone before I went into work, and I was like, what is happening? Like, he just does not do, like,
Right.
he, as incredible as an athlete as he is also incredibly well disciplined and like plain and simple. Will Anderson does not make mistakes like that. Like he just doesn't.
Right.
So even going back to that game, you know, and then for a moment in the Arkansas game and sometimes in the Texas A&M game, you know, I think they need a game where they just shut down Mississippi State. They need a game where, and I've said this about Alabama pretty much all season long, if y'all are up by 20, I don't even care. Keep going. I need y'all to keep rolling. Like, because you do not need to. We've seen what happens when you give teams room to breathe, and you just cannot do that when we don't have that margin for error in the West. Y'all have got to go undefeated in the West, and you've got to keep going. Specifically, of course, you know, they've got to beat Ole Miss, and that's later on down the season. But with the no margin for error, y'all just need to show that you are that dominant Bama team. You are that team that everyone is bringing their best game plan for. You know, we don't need teams. We don't need Mississippi State leaving Bryant-Denny being like, oh, well, we didn't even need to play our best game. Like, they helped us out. They did it for us. You know, y'all need to go in there and you need to shut down the Bulldogs bite. That's all I've got to say.
Right. And that comes down to them watching game film. Game film is everything. The more you know, the faster you'll play. It's all about game film. I know when I was there, we watched a ton of game film. On the defense, D-Tigers, linebackers, corners, safeties. We watch everything. Game film tells you everything. If they're not studying enough, you're not gonna play as fast. That's what it comes down to, game film. So they better watch that game film this week to get a real good jump and know everything that they're doing. And I guarantee you the Alabama defense will wake up and they'll go play.
Well, I'd be willing to bet the guys have been in the film room a decent amount this week. I would be willing to bet if they weren't in class and they weren't on the practice field and they weren't asleep in their bed, they were more than likely in the film room this week.
I hope so. I know I know how it is. It's just like being in the NFL. You watch a ton of game film, so they give you every look possible. So, you know, I'm looking forward to it this weekend.
I am too. Fun fact, I'm actually taking the day off from work on Saturday, and I'm going to be at the game. This is my first Alabama game as a fan since fall of 2018. So I am very excited. I said, you know, I was like, I will be in Tuscaloosa, but do not contact me if you need highlights, if you need anything. Do not ask me, because I will be actually trying to relax and enjoy a football game. But, you know, that'll have to depend on the end result of that. It's going to be weird, though, because normally because I'm not even in the press box at games I go to. I'm normally the one that's shooting the highlights down on the field. So I'm like, well, this is going to be weird watching a football game like from above. Like, watching a football game not from the end zone, that's gonna be a new experience for me. I feel like I don't even know how to like watch football anymore without being like, oh, I need to shoot that and I need to get that and I need to do this. So it should be an interesting experience for sure.
You're gonna have a good time. Trust me, you're gonna have a great time tailgating too.
I know. I'm excited. I'm excited.
You have a great time. I already know you're going to have a great time.
I am so pumped. I'm going to say first time in a long time that I've gotten to hang out for a football game. And hopefully, you know, the Tide, they dominate and they do what they need to do this week against Mississippi State. So before we head out, do you have a score prediction for me? Putting you on the spot for a second, but we think Bryce Young is going to put up a lot. What do we think that's going to look like?
I want to say I want to say 50 points Bryce Young, but I'm gonna be humble.
Okay.
I'm gonna go like 34-0. That's my prediction. 34-0.
34-0 shutout from the defense. I like it.
I want them to get a shutout.
I like it. I like it. I'm gonna go.
What about you?
You know, I think Mississippi State's offense is a little bit different than something that we've seen so far. So I don't know if I'll go shutout on them. I will go 42-14. 42-14. Maybe a late 14. Maybe we'll be 42-7 in the fourth quarter. And maybe,
Okay.
you know, maybe we slip up a little bit at the end. Maybe we give them a little something, but I'll go 42-14 Alabama.
Okay.
All
Fair and
right.
fair.
Well,
I'm gonna remember it now.
I know, we'll have to see. I'm going to be sitting there. I'm going to be sitting there thinking, I'm going to be like, okay, who's closest, me or DJ? I'm going to say whose
I
prediction is
got you.
closest. I love it. Well, DJ, I am so excited for this podcast. You know, we were talking about it before. I didn't really have many expectations to doing a podcast. I don't know if you've ever thought about doing a podcast about Alabama football or anything else. But I hope everyone just kind of enjoys us bantering and talking about some Alabama football and Alabama athletics, because it's something that you know all too well. And it's something that, you know, I have obviously come to love and have gotten the pleasure of not only watching, but covering over the years. So I'm really excited about it.
I can't wait. I hope they do. I hope they do enjoy it. We got many more to come.
Yes, yes. All right. Well, episode 2 in the books of Bleav in Alabama. Alabama Crimson Tide, the number 6 ranked team in the country, kicking off against the number 24 team, Mississippi State Bulldogs. That is a 6 p.m. kick on Saturday. And we will have you cover next week with recap, analysis, and all of that fun stuff. So we will see you next week. As always, roll Tide.
Roll Tide.